My name is Steve Kirby. I'm 50 years old, and I'm the man that Jordan Peterson warned you against becoming. I am, like many others, a recent devotee of Dr. Jordan Peterson. I was made aware of him from an acquaintance I met at a libertarian meeting that I attended several months ago in London. I was immediately astounded, not only by this man's wisdom, but also because he seemed to know all about me. Not about me personally, you understand, since we have never met, but that he knew all about a person like me. Without us ever having met, he knew all about my fears, my insecurities, my weaknesses, and most crucially of all, he seemed to know and see right through all my falsehoods, obfuscations, avoidance tactics, and downright lies that I've ever told myself or ever presented to anyone else. And he also knew why. Because of this, I have to admit that I have been hanging on his every word ever since. Does that make me a groupie or a lackey? Perhaps, but who cares? All I know is that I have come across someone who, despite never having met me, knows what makes me tick, or rather not tick, since to take the clock metaphor a bit further, I've been a stop clock for decades. So what is it that has stunted my psychological growth for so long? In a word, and it needs only one word: fear. I have spent most of my adult life ignoring and postponing and procrastinating and avoiding the very things that would allow me to grow. First amongst these is, I suppose, responsibility. And Dr. Peterson is pretty big on responsibility. I don't mean that I've been lazy, at least not in the conventional sense, and feckless and have leeched off others. In a normal, socially acceptable way, I have been responsible. I go to work every day and I work hard. Too hard, in fact. So hard that I feel that my health is living on borrowed time. I pay a mortgage and have raised 2 children to adulthood. Not much more than that, I'll confess, but at least I have done that. I'm not saddled with enormous debts, but then neither do I have any savings, nor any pension to soothe my passage into old age, which will surely come. But to the casual observer, I am a normal, and by that I mean less than outstanding, upright, law-abiding member of society. So that's okay, right? Wrong. Very wrong. It's about as wrong as it could be without actually troubling anyone else. Except those closest to me, of course. It's wrong because I've been one of the most despised of characters in Dr. Peterson's lexicon. The harmless man. I have been harmless. I haven't murdered or raped or beaten or robbed or swindled anyone. And very broadly, neither have I even been rude or unpleasant or made anyone upset to have encountered me, apart from on very rare occasions. I'm a nice guy. And so fucking what? Is that to be my legacy? Is that to be the sum total of my contribution to the human race and to existence itself? I don't think I was quite as bad as the very worst Peterson character, that of the adult infant, but I am far too close for comfort. This is quite patently pathetic, and I'm thoroughly ashamed of myself. And it's not good enough. To give myself some credit, I will say that I had come to most of the conclusions about myself before I encountered the great man himself, and had become to articulate them. I was beginning to bring them out into the open, and for them to be judged in the harsh light of day. So in a sense, I was starting to become braver, which is something which Peterson might describe as progress. So that is good, or at least it is not bad, and is significantly better than the complex concealment that I've hitherto practiced previously. So, fear it is. Like I say, I have independently verified this as the crucial lack, my crucial lack of virtue. And it is this absent virtue that has effectively negated any and all other virtues that I may possess. Compassion, kindness, conscientiousness, hard work, respect for others, sense of humour, community spirit, industriousness, agreeableness. All of these, I would say, are relatively noble traits, but they are, without exception, rendered useless without the buttressing support of courage. Peterson calls it the willingness to confront the unknown. I have been singularly, but secretly, unwilling in this regard. I believe that I do probably possess the kind of raw courage that men have required in past times to climb out of the trench and to face the machine guns. But then I would wager that that kind of courage only comes about because of the greater fear of not wanting to appear a coward in front of one's comrades. And that's not to diminish it in any way, but in a way that is not confronting the unknown. They knew the Germans were there, and they went to their deaths anyway. They were confronting the known, and they went anyway. But my lack of courage is down to not confronting the possibility of failure. That's my unknown. And so I avoided, and avoided, and avoided. Until guess what? It could be avoided no longer. And more's the point, neither could it be concealed. And that's the thing about failure. It can only be avoided by success. Not confronting it is failure. And in any case, a failure is not a failure if you can gain something from it, even if it is only to know how something can't be done. The only real failure is not to confront it. And if anyone is in any doubt, and perhaps Peterson's message is nothing but noble words, that it is just an intellectual exercise, or the mental masturbation of a superior mind, simply to elevate his profile in order to sell his book, which is tremendous, by the way, then take a look at me. I'm 50 years old, and I have never done a single thing of which I am proud. To discover that at the age of 25 may well be acutely uncomfortable. To discover the same at 50, that is nothing short of devastating. And now I have to live with that. So, this can't go on. I am going to have to do something. And although it is quite a leap to describe it as such, I have an opportunity. I do have something that I have to do. Although it might be more correct to describe it as something that I can no longer continue to do nothing about. There is an old adage that action only occurs in the reluctant, when the pain of action is eclipsed only by the pain of inaction. Even though I'm decades late, I am at that point now. So what is this thing that I need to do? Well, I believe that it is well overdue for us, as citizens everywhere, but particularly in Western liberal democracies, to stand up and reject the electronic leash that is being secured around all of our necks in a form of indiscriminate blanket mass surveillance. That is my unknown that I need to confront. But it is a beast, a leviathan whose reach and whose powers are unlimited, and whose momentum towards a totalitarian future appears unstoppable. The David versus Goliath analogy just doesn't cut it. It is like I'm a single hair on David's head, or even a single cell of his blood up against 1,000, 1,000,000 Goliaths. It's safe to say that the odds are not in my favour. Success is unlikely, to say the least. But the powers of the surveillance state do not have a monopoly on the argument, or reasoning, or truth. All they have is momentum and expediency. What I am pursuing, perhaps for the first time in my life, to paraphrase Dr. Peterson, is something meaningful rather than expedient. And there are many great minds, the greatest, I would say, on my side and on the side of liberty. So it is only a question of argument and of principle. And this goes much deeper than mere surveillance, although surveillance is the major tool of the totalitarians. It goes as deep as what it means to be a citizen, and further still, of what it means to be human. So I have made this video for a number of reasons. Partly it is as a thank you to Dr. Peterson for helping me to identify the path ahead, even though his judgment is uncompromising. Partly as a naked attempt to link his name with mine, so that I might attract some of his followers to my remote channel and perhaps help me in my cause. And partly, or rather mostly, to show that the danger of avoiding the confrontation with one's personal unknown is real. It's very real. Avoiding the risk of failure is a risk in itself. In fact, I would go so far as to say that avoiding risk is a guarantee of failure. So I will leave you with some Jordan Peterson wisdom. Stand up with your shoulders back. Pursue what is meaningful and tell the truth. Or at least don't lie. Especially to yourself. And that bit's mine.